There is a lot of discussion about the best character builds in Skyrim, which usually consists of combining several skill trees to maximize potential. But looking at each skill constellation for its own and what it offers for the majority of your adventure, which one is actually the most fun to use? Please note, this is a personal ranking that is highly subjective. What I used to determine the fun factor most was how frequently used a skill is, how practical it is from the start of the game and through to at least the midway point, and ultimately how interactive and versatile it is. So, let's get started. Coming in at the very bottom at number 18 is Block. Even when I actively try to build Block, I still somehow manage to forget it's even a feature. I guess it makes the most sense paired with a two-handed weapon, but generally you can breeze through the game without ever pressing the block button, and the perks to better blocking just, well, they help you block stuff. Whoop-de-doo. Number 17 goes to Speech. This is a very passive skill that builds very slowly as you buy and sell items and occasionally persuade or intimidate NPCs, which doesn't really happen all that frequently compared to, say, Oblivion, where you could persuade at every interaction. The only real benefit to the perks is slightly better prices and I guess being able to sweet talk your way out of crimes, but you can do that simply by joining the Thieves Guild anyway. And merchant gold is hardly ever a problem thanks to a glitch where you can harm the shopkeeper and then reload the save to reset their gold to their maximum. Number 16 I have to give to Lockpicking. On my very first playthrough, I foolishly invested perk points into this constellation, and I barely ever noticed any difference. For most of us who play Skyrim, the lockpicking minigame is absurdly easy even without any assistance. So yes, lockpicking is frequent and cool, but the skill itself serves no purpose at all except to help you level up whenever it increases. The only possible benefit is all the way at the end after dozens of hours of playing, when master locks become easier. But you might as well at that point just get the skeleton key from the Thieves Guild and call it a day. Number 15 goes to Alchemy. Let's face it, potions in Elder Scrolls games are a pain to use unless you add them to your favorites list and remember that they're there. But are you going to sift through menus for 30 seconds just to fortify barter or pickpocket each instance you're about to do so? The answer is no. This renders most of the perks in the alchemy tree useless, unless carefully combined with the speech tree to get the most out of the only purpose alchemy has, selling high-profit poisons and potions. Sure, sometimes you need a good potion like Cure Disease, and that's fine, but most of what you can create in the game is best just sold to vendors to keep your carry weight down and your wallet overflowing. Number 14 goes to Pickpocketing. While I'm grateful Bethesda made it a visible skill in Skyrim compared to whatever the odds were in Oblivion, there's really only one highly optional reason to invest in pickpocketing, and that's if you choose to do fishing jobs for Delvin Mallory. A successful pickpocket feels great, but in terms of the game's objectives, there's hardly ever a reason to do it. However, there is one amazing perk midway through the game: increased carrying capacity. But generally, with frequent trips to shopkeepers, you can keep your weight down anyway, so it's not really that big of a deal. Number 13 goes to Enchanting. I'll be honest, I simply just don't have enough experience with enchanting and have never gone out of my way to build the skill up beyond disenchanting items and crafting one or two pieces of jewelry. You simply cannot make good use of this skill early on in the game, as you do not have grand soul gems or any capacity to make a decent item worth keeping. Yes, you can eventually make some fantastic items, but due to the time it takes and the rarity of the best gems and equipment, I see it mostly as an impractical thing in the background. Number 12 goes to Smithing. Much like enchanting, you can easily ignore this entire skill and it takes centuries to increase its level. However, I recently went out of my way to at least get smithing to level 50, thanks to the Hearthfire content that greatly helps improve the skill, as you must craft materials to build 3 houses. I also focused on heavy armor in that playthrough, which goes nicely with smithing, as most decent heavy armor must be crafted rather than found randomly in the world. If you really try hard with it and take a break from all the actual quests in the game, you can grow the skill and make some neat stuff, It's cool to see at least once, but just as easily avoided in almost any playthrough. Number 11 goes to heavy armor. This comes down to personal preference, but perhaps it can be argued that heavy armor in Skyrim is at least more rare than light armor. Combined with a dedicated smithing skill, the best defense in the game can be unlocked, but stamina drains so fast and you move so much slower than with light armor. The perks simply boost defense and lighten the load over time, so there's not much to say there. Number 10 goes to light armor. Again, this is personal preference, but light armor is everywhere and extremely versatile. It does not hinder stamina or speed, and many of the quest-specific armors like Thieves' Guild and Dark Brotherhood fall into this category, already fully enchanted for you, rendering smithing and enchanting mostly useless. The perks, just like heavy armor, simply increase defense and lighten the load, so still no big deal. But if you just want to dive into the game and get it done, light armor is grab and go. Alright, now we finally get to the interactive good stuff. Coming in at number 9 is two-handed. Sometimes, all you really want is a good display of testosterone. Personally, I rarely ever choose this build, but in a way, it's the classic Skyrim experience. Make a Nord, or I guess an Orc, and just pummel the crap out of everything with massive hammers. The only downfall is constant stamina management and very slow attack speed, which can suck against packs of wolves or rats, for instance. The perks of this skill just slowly make you more of a barbaric god, which honestly, if you know the game like the back of your hand already, it can be a good speedrun build despite the slow swings. And you gotta name your character something meaty too, like Bruce.
Stay your hand, warrior. It's no secret why you're here, and you have proven your skill at that. What is time?
Number 8 goes to Alteration. This is one of those weird schools of magic that I personally avoided until around my 7th time through the game. You can make candlelight, which not a single person cares about, but even at the novice level you can use the spell Oak Flesh to increase your armor rating, and as usual, as the skill grows, stronger versions of Oak Flesh can be purchased and used. Also at the novice level, and relatively easy to find if doing the mage quest line, is Equilibrium. This spell may seem stupid, but in certain battles, transforming your health into magicka is a vital move, and it sets up use for restoration magic, often growing 2 skills in one. Much later on, you can gain access to telekinesis, which is kind of neat in concept at least. Other than that, it can simply paralyze certain foes and show the locations of enemies through walls. So, from the start of a new game up through pretty much most of the usual quests, it's actually nothing more than a glorified armor boost with Oak Flesh. Great for pairing with other magic, but kind of boring on its own. Number 7 goes to Illusion. Man, this skill tree is enjoyable when it works, but just as frustrating that it's not better than it is. For most races in the game, you can't even grow this skill at all until at least an hour into things if you're going at a good pace. But if you choose High Elf, you start with a Fury spell, and the best advantage out of all the races in this skill. Fury makes enemies fight each other, kind of. Usually, it more or less makes the effective enemy a target for his former allies. It's cool when it works, but you quickly run into enemies who are too strong to be affected by the spell, and it's clunky at best, often requiring you to stand in between 2 enemies and kinda guide them near each other. Spells like Fear and Calm tend to work more often and can be effective for steering clear of conflict. It's fun to calm an enemy and then decimate him, or maybe cast Fury on a pack of wolves and calm the last one standing to make your getaway. But it is definitely more of an assist magic, with the most attractive spells being Muffle and Invisibility. Most know that Skyrim caters well to stealth characters, so Muffle can aid in place of Sneak. Unfortunately, Invisibility is one of the expert level spells that costs quite a lot, so it's possible to complete the Thieves' Guild and Dark Brotherhood before ever seeing that spell, after which there aren't as many obvious stealth situations. So, Illusion can be silly fun for something different, or a glorified sneak assist with the muffle spell.
Someone there?
Number 6 is Destruction. This is the go-to build for any mage, as why wouldn't you use offensive magic? You get to choose from fire, lightning, or frost specialties, and perhaps best of all, you can dual wield spells to form more powerful versions. It can be a blast to disintegrate foes with lightning, for instance. However, more experienced mages that have dabbled with other types of spells may find this straightforward damage dealing to be a little on the boring side. It's always a fun option if ever you want to replay the game, but you might want to consider pairing it with some other skills for variety. Number 5 is Restoration. Maybe this really isn't that fun, but it's a necessity for nearly every choice of playstyle. In just a short amount of time, you can activate perks to have it cost virtually nothing, be more effective, and transform into a massive heal if dual cast. The rest of the constellation doesn't really matter, and frankly neither do any of the other spells like wards. But if you take it all the way and use followers a lot, you can become the team healer and just sort of hang back. Either way, for me, I almost always favorite the healing spell and make use of it in at least one hand. Number 4 goes to Archery. Yes, it is not news to anybody that the go-to build for Skyrim is Stealth Archer. Being able to hide and pick off enemies from great distances is extremely satisfying. The perks in the archery tree enhance overall damage and critical hit ratios, essentially transforming you into an invincible ranged fighter. However, there are moments where face-to-face combat is inevitable, and in these moments, archery takes a hit. It's very hard to be swift and accurate when enemies are strafing all around like a computer. Number 3 goes to One-Handed. This is the classic Skyrim build, usually paired with restoration magic. Or, if you want a faster version of a two-handed attacker, you can dual-wield swords, axes, or maces. The perks enhance whichever tool you choose, as well as overall damage output, and you often get cool kill cams against dragons. Sure, it robs you of stealthy options at times compared to archery, but you simply can't go wrong with the most obvious choice of attack. Maybe not the most interesting way of playing, but it's the easiest one to fall into. Number 2 goes to Conjuration, another weird school of magic. I always just assumed this was summoning zombies and never touched it until recently. Yes, part of it is summoning undead, as well as a little wolf buddy called a familiar. Later you can summon Atronachs as well, but that's all kinda stupid, though neat when you're bored of everything else. The true glory here is found in Bound Weapons. Bound Sword is a novice spell you can find or purchase early on, and it grants you a one-handed sword for about a minute or more. You can disable it by sheathing the weapon, which then requires casting the spell again, which is actually a super good strategy as each cast massively boosts the conjuration skill. As you use it, your one-handed skill increases, and if you add perks to both conjuration and one-handed, very soon you will have an almighty sword. And it happens fast, as both skills level rapidly. About midway through the skill tree, Bound Bow becomes available, granting you a bow and 100 ghost arrows, leveling the archery skill in tandem with conjuration. Again, sheathing the weapon allows you to recast it, and in practice, it just may be one of the fastest skills to max out. Furthermore, 2 perks in particular in Conjuration are outstanding. First, you can beef up the power of bound weapons. Second, you can have your bound weapon soul trap upon killing, making it the fastest and most reliable way to fill soul gems, should enchanting be a thing you're after. As I said, the levels come fast, so you will get these perks before the mid-game, even though they seem to be higher up in the tree. If paired with illusion or alteration magic, you can become an extremely versatile character, being able to swap between one-handed or archery on the fly, as well as being able to be stealthy or in your face. Bound weapons just may be my new favorite way of playing. And finally, number 1 goes to Sneak. As we've said, one of Skyrim's favorite builds is the Stealth Archer, and a lot of that is due to the stealth part of it. Sneak's very nature and first perk sets every kill up to be silent, increasing in success over time. Furthermore, as you progress through the skill tree, your hits deal critical damage, resulting often in one-hit kills if hidden. A little less than midway through, you can even deactivate pressure plates, no longer falling victim to floor traps. Each perk added to Sneak increases the odds of staying hidden, to the point that enemies will literally be on top of you and still not know where you are, allowing the critical strikes to almost always happen. Each stealthy hit and kill levels the skill, and it's just a great way to crawl through the game's dungeons, especially combined with archery. One-handed is a viable option as well, albeit a little more dangerous as you are more at risk for getting detected. So there you have my ranking of the 18 skill trees of Skyrim. What are your favorites? I'm Bill from Good Old Days Gaming, and thanks for watching.